dear BIM person, what you do as your daily practice is actually one of the most important keys for the upcoming technologies of tomorrow. And if you want to know how, stay with me for the next 15 minutes. This is Göker from Turkey. Okay, so we don't really see the agenda. I think it's just because we're at the stage 6. Normally, I wanted to show something interactive here, but if I summarize the agenda quickly, first I will tell you just a little about myself. Then, for me, it is important to make the correct expectation from the presentation. Afterwards, I will show you some method that I use to implement an AI model into a Revit plugin. And finally, if we still have time, in the conclusion, maybe we can discuss for some further actions. So who I am? Very quickly, I studied architecture in Turkey. Then I had my master's on building information modeling at the University of Liverpool. I currently work for HKR Architects, and here I want to take a moment to thank them for their unconditional support on my individual researches. As I said, I really need to make the correct expectations. So as you can see on the title, the presentation is going to be about AI, but this is something nowadays, this is something everyone talks about, and I don't really want to make a wrong expectation on my presentation. During the last year, many advanced AI models have been developed, and what you see on the graphic is the computational power used for training certain applications. And as you can see, the highest ratio is going for two-dimensional drawing applications, and it is not really difficult to imagine that in the next stage of developments, 3D drawing applications are also going to have much attention. And to be honest with you, considering all the advanced models, my research is already lag behind. I want to be honest on that. But my motivation is not about computation. My motivation is more about awarenesses. And in this section, I will show you some early examples of 3D applications. One is 3D-Fi. Well, if you want to understand what's going to happen in the construction industry, I will always suggest looking at the gaming industry. So this is a tool serves in the gaming industry called 3D-Fi. You start with selecting one of 8 categories, and you basically give a prompt, and it will give you the model, and you are going to be able to download it in certain file formats. This is just another example, again, by 3D-Fi. You can even be more specific in this experiment. For example, I asked for a table for 6 people. I said all the legs should be connected with beams. And here's the result. The application is able to give me what I want as a 3D model. So simply it's happening. It's not in the future. It's not in tomorrow. It is in today. And another example I really like, we don't have access to this application. You can ask for access. You can be a beta tester. And in their website, they present some great examples, and I really like this one. One of the current users asked for the marble statue of a Greek philosopher, and the model generated that point cloud very automatically. There are more applications you can find on the internet. I listed some of them. So simply, there is a real market emerging, and many people are going to be step forwarding to investing. So just conclude on all the advanced models coming. I would really like you to understand my presentation is not about presenting an upcoming product, or it is not to discuss some best practice. This is more like a presentation to encourage being involved and emphasize the value of our work. I will explain this a little more soon. And just a humble guide on where to start by using only publicly available resources. So I said my motivation is not really about competition, but more about awarenesses. And please let me explain this a little more. According to Harvard, construction industry is one of the least digitalized industries. And just like BIM made, because we are all BIM people, we know how BIM changed the entire industry. AI is about to make a similar change. But in my theory, this time we might have something to protect us from that rapid change, at least. And that's in my theory, the key is the hunger of AI, because normally you need to provide thousands of samples to train a model on something. And when I say train a model about buildings, please don't only think about deliverables. Please imagine the entire building industry. Like, imagine you have an AI model trained on buildings. It can take your BIM model. It can measure the volume of the rooms. It can check the heating system. It can take the coordinates. It can measure the energy efficiency. I said leave the deliverables behind for now. For example, it can suggest what is the best price for your property to be sold, or what the rent should be. Just try to imagine entire industry, not only our deliverables. The point is, it is really difficult to provide thousands of real buildings to the AI models. And it's simply expensive. We cannot construct buildings just to be used in a sample library. But there's a solution, because there are people building digital buildings like us. Our models can be fed into AI models. Our models can be used to train AI models. Because they are data rich, they are digital twins, and they are simulation of real buildings. In my theory, BIM models are the best solution if you want to implement AI into the construction. And this is why I say our daily practice can be very important, and can be way more important than we believe. Actually, it is already possible to make an AI model which can interact with BIM files, and I want to show you an example. It's something really, really simple. Again, what I want is not to present a product, but what I want is to show you the possibility. So, simply to make my solution, I worked on a problem based on a scenario. Like, imagine one of your partners sent their model, but the model doesn't have any BIM data. It's just a plain 3D geometry. And imagine having an AI model which can read that 3D geometry and automatically turn into a BIM file. Is this possible? If an AI model can read the 3D plane geometry, yes, it's possible. Simply, I needed a sample library to make the model. I'm not going to dive into details too much, but I can just say I made objects in random ranges for 4 different Revit categories: walls, beams, slabs, and columns. This is the number of, at the left, what you see is the number of walls by their length. And what is interesting here, as I said, the geometry doesn't have any BIM data. Even when I rotated half of the objects, computer didn't understand that. When I rotated the half of the objects, their thickness become their length. And you can see that half of data presented, like many walls are presented like being really short. This is why you see high number of walls at the very left of the graphic. Imagine literally no BIM data and literally no understanding even what is thickness, what is length, just plain geometry. And it's the same for the beams, of course. And this is the number of walls and the beams by their height. Of course, walls are higher in average. There is also, well, after my data library is ready, I use a general approach, which is commonly good for classification problems. Again, I'm not going to dive into the technical details too much, But very symbolically, this is how it works. You just provide your dimensions into some nodes, and those nodes are allowed to pass the result to the other nodes if they met a certain criteria. And finally, you end up with 0, 1, 2, or 3. And in my model, 0 represents a wall, 1 represents a floor, and etc. I made this model using TensorFlow, and you can simply export any TensorFlow model to an Onyx object, which can be read by using C#, which means we can then take this model into Revit, and Revit becomes able to make predictions. After all, I would like to show a video demo. So I hope the screen is big enough because there will be a little window telling about the prediction of the model. I hope you are going to be able to read. I just select one of so these are all drawn in mass category in Revit. There is no BIM data. But each time I select an object, it makes a prediction. It says this should be a beam. This should be a wall, simply. Even the object is in mass category, even there is no data. Now things are going to get a bit more interesting here because I will pick one of the objects. I will change the dimensions. I will make it look like a beam. And after that, the prediction is going to say this is a beam by a chance of 88%. If I make it look like a floor, the prediction is going to be a floor. And this is the most interesting part because here I make a giant column which is out of the range of any objects in my sample library. Even the column is in such a giant column never existed in my sample library. Revit's still able to understand that was a column. So we have around 2 minutes more left. I will quickly tell you possible benefits, so maybe you are also interested in that area. First is, of course, increased interoperability. Then you can be able to get your models from different softwares. And as long as you have the correct geometry, you can make models which can understand what is what and which can make the connection between different softwares for you. My model is not that advanced. Again, for the sake of honesty, what I did is just to understand the possibility of the technique. But if you are interested, I will definitely encourage you to do some testing. And of course, rationalization and the better management of complete libraries. I'm sure that many of you been in this position, like you have many objects from previous projects, but new starters are not really able to find what is where or what family is used for what reason. If you, for example, do an unguided training, your one AI model is going to be able to classify all your objects for you. And also, it is the same for single projects. You can do classification in your simple project, in a single project. And of course, recognition of your design. So Revit can become able to understand what room is what, for example, and put the room objects for you, name the room object for you, and etc. And further research opportunities may include auto-generation in your style, of course, and 2-dimension to 3-dimension automation. So I think this is something everyone is imagining, giving Revit a 2D drawing and enjoying that it automatically turned into a 3D BIM model. You can take sustainability advice. Imagine your AI model check the geometry of your building, check the coordinates, and tells you if you use that material, for example, your building is going to be energy efficient. And of course, the recognition of design errors. So there are some examples, people creating data sets. I'm out of time. I won't be able to tell you everything in detail, but I see very benefits of trying to make a shared library of objects which we can later, which can be belong only us, belong only BIM coordinators, and which we can be later use the same library to create AI models. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your attention.